Your friends are back. The Professionals and Animal Lovers Show, pals. Your professional and animal lovers show. What's up, Valerie? What's going on? Actually, I don't want to know everything that's going on. I know you got a lot going on. There are some. Katie Shannon is our guest. She's here with us today, but we'll get to Katie in just a moment. Val, I mean, I do want to know some stuff that's going on. I mean, I heard something about some product stuff going on.
Yes. So I am incredibly excited because I have been working really hard on developing my own line of doggy ice cream, as well as a couple of bone broths. And the ice cream I'm creating has only nutritious, beneficial ingredients. And the reason I even was doing this is because I couldn't find what I wanted. Like all of the ones that I was looking at had like added sugar, guar gum, xanthan gum, and gums are not good for them, or us really. Anyway, that said, my ice cream has like fun, cute titles like Splooty, Patootie, and every flavor has a targeted health benefit. So like Splooty Patootie is literally goat milk, locally sourced goat milk, blueberries and basil, full of antioxidants. Da 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 da. I also have one called the Taurine Tornado, which is goat milk and ground hearts, beef hearts. And my favorite, I think, well, I'm not really sure, but anyway, I digress. Right now, my favorite is I sourced from a local ostrich farmer, and I'm making ostrich bone broth, which is super great. It greases their musculoskeletal system. It's anti-inflammatory and it's a probiotic. So I'm really excited, and I cannot wait to launch these products.
Look what I got.
Yeah.
I got one of these. I was at a walk for a nonprofit. It was all purple, and I had a lavender suit on that day, and they gave me one of these.
I love it. And I have to just say that it's thanks to this podcast. This podcast literally changed my whole life, like my whole world. What started off as just something to do during COVID, and we're always talking about animals. And then because I met John Devereaux, the clinical pet nutritionist, who inspired us to change how we feed our pets. And then that became like, what else do we need to know? And now we own a holistic pet food store, and I have a certification in pet food nutrition, and now I'm in product development. I mean, honestly, I could not have ever predicted that.
Yeah, but I could say, again, get out of your comfort zone. I tell that to my friend and partner, Valerie.
You told me that, yes.
I do. It's because you know why, Val? You know why? I'll tell you why. Because life begins outside of your comfort zone.
You're not kidding. And
waiting around.
I owe you a debt of gratitude forever because you did push me into this. I didn't really want to do the camera stuff and Zoom and whatever. And you were like, get out of your own way. I'll never forget that.
I love it. Well, I'll send you an invoice since you said you got a debt of gratitude for me. Who are these people that's talking? I'm Tommy D. That's Valerie Heffron. We are your pals. We believe the bond between animal lovers is incredibly strong. So what we say is let's support one another in business and rescue and philanthropy by building this network and continuing to nurture this network so that everyone wins.
Especially the animals.
I haven't heard that phrase in so long.
And advocacy.
And advocacy too. And advocacy, especially the animals, baby. I am the nonprofit sector connector. I am super focused on shedding a light on the nonprofit sector. And Valerie and I spend a lot of time doing that together. We have launched the Professionals and Animal Lovers Society. We got members. Shout out to the team. Shout out to everything that's going on. We had a big lunch with Assemblyman Ed Ra about some legislation. There's so much going on, Val. We're not hanging out enough. I know you got a lot of personal things going on and good stuff, but just keeping you away from me and the stuff we're trying to do together, but we're going to fix that. Today we got a guest. Let me tell stories. First, Katie Shannon, hello. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We're glad to have you. Life is so interesting, the way connections happen, the way things happen. I have a friend, Bert Lurch, Bert's business partner. Lewis passed away in the last couple of years, about a year and a half now. And Lewis Burke. And Lewis is a great guy. One night I'm at a dinner for another friend of ours who I'm sitting across from Lewis. And I say to Lewis, So I got this, I do this philanthropy focus, and then my friend and I, we have the show called Pals. It's all about animal advocacy, professional animal lovers show, just Tommy D, riff, riff, riff. So Lewis keys into what I said, and he's like, "Whoa, hold on a sec, bro. Go back to that thing, with the animals or whatever." So he's like, my brother Ren has this product, these tags for dogs, and I go, all right, so connect them with me, man. We'll figure it out. There's probably something there. And Ren and I had maybe one or two emails and didn't connect, and unfortunately Lewis passed, and then Ren and I connected after that, and then Ren and Katie and I had some meetings, and I connected with some people in my network, and Val and I have the show, so we were like, we got to feature this on the show at some point, and that's like how we're here. And I just kind of look back and think about that's this whole life, that's this whole experience, is that we're all connected and we all get in touch with people at the right time and when we should be getting in touch with people. So Katie Shannon, you and I have done some emails. I connect you with a friend of mine who actually I connect you with a friend of mine named Deborah, which is where we got my guy Cheeto. My guy, he's downstairs, I think, but my guy Cheeto, that is our rescue puppy, and I no matter what my family thinks, he's my guy. Like we are like the team, and then there's everybody else. Val, you know what I'm talking about, right? You know how that
I sure do.
is. Your guy, Jovi. So, Katie Shannon, this is your life. Katie Shannon, this is your story. I know you've had your own experiences in rescue. You created nonprofit organizations. I way before you even got to Cineroid and met Ren and the team and the work you're doing on the product side as chief product officer. Valerie doesn't know any of this stuff, and I do know some of it. So I want you to share your story because I know she's going to be getting giddy, and all the friends that listen to the show are going to be digging your story too. So take it away, please, if you
Getting
would.
giddy with it.
Well, thank you. I've just been a crazy animal kid my whole life. I started rescuing, the neighbor would call you and say like they found a baby squirrel that had fallen out of a tree in a storm, and would I want to take him under my wing. And one of my neighbors actually worked at the zoo, so he was able to offer some guidance on how to care for this squirrel. So I've just been rescuing things as long as I can remember, but officially I've been involved in rescue for just over 20 years. I do a combination of horse rescue. I used to get a lot of horses that were destined for the slaughter pipeline and rehab them and rehome them. And then once I was able to, I turned into kind of a crazy dog lady. So I've worked with several rescues. I've volunteered for spay neuter clinics on large scales. I've been on the board of directors for 2 different rescues, including the one I currently have and have founded called Rescue Friends Animal Foundation in Calgary, Alberta. So this project was kind of supposed to be a fun rescue project. We didn't want to be limited to just dogs and cats. If we saw something that needed rescued, we wanted to be able to act on it. So we still primarily focus on cats right now, especially. We do have a few dogs in care, but we've also facilitated horse rescues. We've had some geese, some guinea pigs that were turned loose at a park. Just wherever you see help, we get involved.
I'm sorry, can you just repeat the name of the organization and where that is?
Sure, it's Rescue Friends Animal Foundation in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Oh, you're in Canada?
I am.
That is so cool. I believe you are only our second guest from outside of the continental US. Right, Tommy? The other one was Dr. Connor. Dr. Connor Brady.
Dr. Connor
Yeah.
Brady, sure.
I don't think we've had anyone outside of the country. That's so cool. Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Listen, welcome to our neighbors to the north. We love you still, and we hope you still love us, okay? And I'll just leave that. I will just put that out there for the world, okay?
Absolutely.
This show is nothing but love, baby.
Well, I think we have a lot of common threads with what we're trying to do. And anytime we try to make the world a better place for animals, it doesn't matter where you live or, what side of the politic coin you fall on. We're here doing a common goal. So,
That's right.
Yeah. So in addition to that kind of rescue stuff, I'm also a former search and rescue canine handler. I have a rescue dog from Mexico, actually. That was my dog that I have. He's retired now. He decided during COVID when things shut down that when we went back to work, he wasn't super excited about going back to work. And he also had a hip injury. So he had to retire. But I'm also a dog trainer. I'm just a general animal lover. And, that led me to finding Ren and Cineroid Technologies and working on the technology and the products that we have. And it's all about keeping our pets safe, helping them get home, being a voice for them when they don't have one, and just the importance of what pet identification does for keeping pets in homes where they belong and out of shelters when we can.
Yeah, that's extremely important. We did actually have a Long Island dog search and rescue organization on here a couple of years ago, and the number one thing that they all said was like, please microchip and or use the some kind of GPS locating device. I am about to move, and that's one of my personal like fears. Although I really know that knowing how paranoid I am, it kind of helps me be able to make sure that no one's going to go missing. But let's talk about this.
Hold on, before that, Val, I feel obligated. It's like paranoia, paranoia. Everybody's coming to get me. I feel like we had to sing right there.
That's totally me. I'm between potential fire hazards or whatever, like I am such a hyper paranoid fire person, but also going missing, or even the last time that I moved, our movers actually stepped on my dog in spite of me telling them this is where my dog is, because there wasn't really a lot of places to put him, and please don't step on him. They still stepped on him. Anyway, but I digress. Okay, so Cineroid Technologies, you are the Chief Products Officer. So many questions already. Let's talk about the one that I've seen. We had a bunch of samples that were given to us at the lunch, and we distributed them there. And I don't know if you have other here it is.
There we go.
Okay, a little fuzzy, but all right. Let's talk about that. And then also if there are other products you want to discuss. And of course, were you at Global Pet Expo? I have to ask.
No, I wasn't.
Was the company?
No, not this year.
Okay. Because I was there, and I would have been remiss if I hadn't, if you were there and we didn't see you guys. All right, so let's jump in. Like, what makes this technology different?
Yeah, so one of the issues with pet identification is that there hasn't been a lot of technology upgrades to it. It's one of those products that have kind of fallen through the cracks. Everything else is advancing, but pet identification really hasn't. For close to 100 years, people have been using engraved metal tags to identify their pets. Previous to that, livestock were identified with, ear notches and brands, and that's still technology that can be used today. But what we wanted to do was create a product that uses the same amount of real estate as an engraved metal tag, but to connect it to more information. Typically a metal engraved tag has space for 1 or 2 phone numbers, maybe an address. But the biggest downfall of that is that they get worn, tarnished, they're hard to read. And of course you have to and you have to replace them to update that information. So with the tags that we have, they're QR and NFC enabled, so they can work with any smartphone. They have this is the size of them. They're a lightweight plastic tag, and inside they have an NFC antenna. And on the back side, if you can see that, they have a QR on them.
QR and MS what?
NFC. So it's near field communication. So it taps just like your
NFC. Never heard of that before. Okay, go ahead.
So what it does
got to slow down over here. As you know, I had a hard time getting on Zoom today. So
so what it does is the person gets a tag, they download our app, and then they register their pet's profile to the tag and connect them. So in the profile, it has pictures of their pet, so we make sure that we know that we're looking at the right pet and the right information if we were to find them. It puts all of your owner information on there, as well as emergency contacts, your vet information. There's a note section you can put on there. So if your dog, has allergies or has a medical condition and requires medication, you can put that information on there as well. And then the owners can actually store their vaccine documents or certificates and vet records so that they have them if they, check in at boarding or groomer and they need proof of that vaccine, they have it available on their phone, and proof of ownership. And this product is really a proactive approach to pet identification and protecting your pet in case they are lost. We know pets go missing. 1 in 3 pets will go missing in their lifetime, and that equates to over 10 million pets in the U.S. alone every year.
That's an incredible number. I didn't know that number, Katie. I mean, 1 in 3, 10 million. And you know, I learned something recently, Val. And I think I was on a meeting with Katie, and it was sort of like, oh shoot, like Cheeto has a chip, right? Cheeto is chipped. So I made the false assumption, and this is a guy who gets out of the gate a lot. Not me, I mean the dog, but I get out of the gate at most days. But Cheeto gets out once in a while, and that's such silliness that goes on in my head, and then I say it into the world. So Cheeto,
We all do.
I know sometimes Cheeto has gotten out, and I thought, like, I remember this conversation, Katie, where I was like, "Oh, Cheeto's chipped," and then our friend Deborah's like, "Yeah, but like, it's not a chip that's going to tell you like where he is." I
Right.
I didn't know that, Val. I was like, "Oh, he's chipped, so if he was to get out, I can call Deborah and she'll tell me like where." And she's like, "That's not the kind of chip it is." Remember this, Katie? Like, I was
Yeah.
You
so.
thought the chip had like GPS sonar in
What do
there or something.
I have no
Yeah.
context of
No,
this.
no, 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 it's
Yeah,
okay. But
yeah, that's what I'm
that's
saying.
important information because
Yeah.
also there's so many things that can happen with a chip. First of all, a lot of times people move or they'll rehome an animal. Like, let's say, example, a friend of mine who lives in Merrick, one of her cats went missing. She was devastated, strictly indoor cat. And I asked her, is it chipped? And she said, it is, but it was my sister's cat in California. And most people, when if there's a move, they don't re-update, the information, not re-update. I think I just invented a word. They don't update the information. It's not top of mind. You know what I mean? So, it's not like your driver's license where you're like, oh, I got to change my address, right? So that's an issue. And another thing that I personally saw, and I hope this doesn't happen too much, but I personally saw a couple from Freeport whose dog went missing, deaf dog, and they went to the shelter 3 consecutive days looking for this dog. And the shelter had the dog, but literally told them that no such dog fitting that description. It was a very unique dog. It was an all white kitty. And no such dog has come through these doors. Well, guess what? It was there. They ended up finding out, and they just said, like in a nonchalant way, like, "Yeah, sorry, we missed the chip. We missed it." So the scanner didn't work, or they didn't do it in the right place, whatever. And so chips are not, 100%
Yeah, they're not foolproof.
reliable, right? I was like bulletproof. I had all these words spinning there. So anyway, carry on, please continue. Go ahead.
Um, okay, so with the microchip, like we really do believe we have a company also called Global ID America, which is a microchip company as well. So we do sell the product with a microchip. This is what they look like in the syringe. So it's preloaded inside there. And then there is a GPC smart tag in there as well. So we really believe that pet identification should be a two-factor approach because all pet identification has its downfalls. Tags can fall off. And, microchips are a great backup method. But the problem with microchips is that the pet has to be taken typically to a vet or a shelter in order to scan that chip to read it.
Yeah.
And Tommy, this was a conversation we were having. So a lot of people don't understand when they get a microchip implanted, they just assume the vet is the one who's going to register the information for that pet. But the vet doesn't always have all your information. They don't know which phone number you want on there. Do you want your husband's or your wife's or your work number or your cell phone number, or maybe you still have a landline? And so a lot of times those chips aren't registered or they're not registered with the best information that's available. And then people don't even know what company the chip belongs to because the vet just says, do you want a microchip? And you say, sure, I'm supposed to have one for my pet. Let's get one. But you don't know what company it belongs to and you don't know how to retrieve that information. And so in the States, the estimates are somewhere between 4 and 7% of pets are microchipped, which is a very, very low percentage.
Did you say between 4 and 7? Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something else that's a real problem. Okay.
Yep.
So on the flip side, for example, my husband was driving a couple of years ago and he just saw this stray dog and he was like, okay, so we pulled over and very friendly dog, this little white poofy thing. I don't know exactly what it was. And the next thing I know, he calls me up and he's like, come downstairs. And I come downstairs and there's a new dog on the couch. And I'm like, yay, we got another dog. And he's like, no. But my point is this. A lot of times when people, good, well-meaning people, find a stray cat, find a stray dog, whatever, they'll bring it home because they don't know what to do. And maybe it's at night and everything's closed. And they start posting on Facebook. They got pictures. Nextdoor is a fantastic hyper-local app that helps people find their pets. But there are also not good people out there, and they will act as if it's their pet. And because understand, every single pet has value. And whether they're going to sell it, whether they're going to use it as a bait animal, whether they're going, we don't know, but anyone who finds a stray or a lost animal, they have to make sure that it's the right owners, and I mean, a lot of people just trust other people and they're like happy. They feel like they did a good deed. Oh, here's your cat back. You know what I mean? And it can really go wrong. So for these tags to be able to be scanned and show proof of ownership and everything, I think that's huge. I love
Yeah, so the tags aren't a GPS product, and let's talk a little bit about why that can be beneficial. So that's a common misconception that we deal with, is that everybody thinks that microchips are GPS, or these types of tags are GPS. But a GPS product requires a communication signal, so it needs to be connected to data, and so it needs to be in service to be able to do that. So you have to have a cellular signal, and it's going to need a monthly data plan, which is costly, and it's going to need a battery, and it's going to require charging. And so a lot of people don't realize that a true GPS product, we're not talking about Bluetooth products. This is just an actual GPS. It needs to have that battery. It needs to be charging. And so when you have a GPS, it's sending a signal from the collar to a cell tower to get that location. And so it's going to have periodic updates. And if your pet goes missing, usually you put it into like a live tracking mode where it's sending that signal out every few seconds. And so when you put a GPS collar into tracking mode, typically those batteries only last a few hours before they die. And so you have a very small window to actually be able to find your pet before that collar is now dead, and you have no way to find out where your pet is. And if your pet doesn't have a backup method of identification on them, if somebody finds your pet, they don't know how to call you. And so that's why, as much as it seems simple, a tag really is the gold standard for pet identification, because it's something that everybody can use. They don't need special technology to be able to read it. And so something like our GPC smart tags, they don't provide an active tracking location, but we were able to include being able to use the finder's cellular location to send the owner a notification saying somebody scanned your pet's tag, and it'll actually map that location to where your pet's tag was scanned. So you actually
how nearby is that? Like, is it like a block, like a cross street, or is it like
no, it uses Google Maps,
Okay.
so it's incredibly accurate. It's like within feet.
that is so cool.
Oh my, so I won't even say his name because I don't want to tempt the universe. But let's say somebody has a pet and that pet goes missing, right?
Yeah.
And then Katie finds this pet in Alberta, which just means this dog can move, is what it means.
Yeah. And they do.
So you pick up the dog, and it's wearing the GPC, and you take out your phone and you hit the QR code. I am now going to get pinged on whatever method I chose to be pinged on, my cell phone, my wife's cell phone, whatever, or all my kids and our cell phones, to know that it's not going to tell me Katie Shannon did this, but it's going to say someone just pinged this or just scanned the tag, and I know now where the dog is.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, what about that, Valerie?
No, that's amazing. And I just can't think of a better way of, like, let's put it this way. That poofy white dog that my husband brought home that day, thankfully we did find the owners, and I was drilling it into him. I'm like, you can't just give this dog away to anybody who says it's their dog, But anyway, if this dog I'm picturing had this tag and he scanned it, boom, we have a phone number, we have a name, we have possibly an address. Like, it would have been a lot easier. And for those 4 or 5 hours that We didn't know who the owner was. I'm sure that was the longest 4 or 5 hours of their lives.
The profile won't display your address just as a safety feature, but they are able to connect with you right away. They can text you, they can call you. If they can't get a hold of you, you have a backup contact on there, and then even your veterinarian's on there, because your veterinarian, somebody who knows your pet, they're familiar with it, they're likely to be able to hold your pet until you're able to be reached. And then when you do show up to pick up your pet, you have that proof of ownership saved in that profile. So you can show them like, hey, this is my dog. And one of the best methods for proof of ownership is actually a picture of you with your dog, because somebody can go on Facebook and steal pictures of your dog. But if you have pictures of you with your dog, that's actually one of the best forms of proof of ownership. So you can say like, look, this is actually my dog. Here's 79 pictures of us together.
Right. Right.
You're pointing out things that, like, I'm always the one that, like, on this show, it's like, really? Like, Val, you've educated me on a lot of things over the last bunch of years we've been doing this, but
Same.
yeah, thank you. And I just think though, this one I wouldn't have. I didn't even know people were doing that. I mean, and I'm again. We're from the Northeast, baby. Strong Island, represent NYC, the whole thing. We're not a bunch of gumps over here. But I had no idea that people were that nasty that would try and steal a lost dog. I'm sorry, I didn't get that one.
Oh yeah, well, especially like the designer dogs, if you will, or like a purebred dog, whatever. But this little white poofy dog, let's say he was a Maltese, or say he was small, white, fluffy, maybe a Maltipoo, something like that. Very high in demand, very expensive, and these people, they look for these opportunities, just like, and I have to bring this up too, since you're both involved in the nonprofit world. First of all, I get so annoyed. I've seen this many times where there's a rescue that has a significant following or whatever, and they'll make a post, and then in the comments section, some scam artist will come on with their logo and a website address and say like, buy their merch here, like buy Camp Happy Tails merch here, whatever, and people fall for it. They buy t-shirts, and then they don't get it, and the money doesn't go to the rescue. Secondly, and more recently, this is very important. I know a rescue whose their Venmo, what people do is, so in this case, let's say it was Dog Rescue 911, okay? They'll take their logo and then they'll create a Venmo with that logo that says Dog Rescue _ 911 or Dog Rescue 911 exclamation point. Like it's off by one character, and people send money to the wrong place. It's horrific. So now you take, people like that with that mindset, and certainly it applies to lost animals. This happened to a friend of mine too recently. She's very involved in, she does a lot of cat rescue. And there was a cat that was found friendly. And of course, she's posting it, is this anyone's cat? Like that kind of thing. So some guy from way out east, I believe it was Ronkonkoma, reached out trying to act as if it was his cat. So this girl's a sharp cookie though. She's been doing this a long time too. So she was like, okay, can you describe the cat to me, whatever. And so he's describing the cat in the picture, and she goes, okay, is your cat neutered? And by the way, it was like very far. It was, she's in Huntington. So significant distance for a cat to travel in like overnight. Anyway, the guy says, yes, he's neutered. And she said, okay, it's not your cat. This cat's not neutered. The guy tried to harass her into giving him, he started posting all over Facebook, she has my cat, she's not giving me my cat. It was nuts. But this is how evil people are.
And that's determined, like he got, okay, she caught you. Like most you would think would be like, all right, I'm out. Let me like I'm done. Yep. But this guy just doubles down. Yeah.
Triples, quadruples, and then he tried to go after her. He actually posted her address. He found her and he posted the address.
So with our GPC Smart, it won't display your address. Like it's on your profile, but it won't display that for anyone. But the nice thing about somebody actually scanning the tag and you getting that notification of where they are when they scan that tag is actually to prevent scammers. If you're offering a reward for your lost dog, say you have $1,000 reward for your lost dog, and they're calling claiming that they have your dog, well, they can just scan the tag and you'll get a notification of where they are. You can confirm that information with them, and they physically have to have your dog with them in order to scan that tag. And so that's one way that you can cut down on those scammers.
That's another scam. I've seen that. I can't even imagine how desperate and devastated people are when they send money like in advance of seeing their pet, and they're
Didn't
just
see
like,
the photo or anything, like, and because right, like you're saying,
no, like people reach out on social media. They're like, I have your dog, but you have to prove whatever. And then it's like, you offered a reward. Like, why don't you send us half as a deposit so we know that you're serious and you're real? And then they take it and run. It's
Mhm.
it's it's horrible. I mean, there's a lot of
I,
if only
you know,
these people, the scam artists, would use their brains because they have them towards good, right?
Valerie, I said this for years. I used to watch on CNBC. They used to have this show called American Greed, and it was like
Yes.
American Greed, cha cha cha.
Yeah.
It was like that kind of like thing. And it
Cha cha
was cha cha. I don't think they said cha cha cha, but maybe let's cha cha. But so then they were like on that show. I was like, man, oh man, if these people, these criminal masterminds, would just
cha.
have mastermind and not be so criminal, they would
Yeah.
be super successful. And they, because that show always ended behind bars. Somebody's always
Yeah.
getting locked up. It wasn't like, hey, this criminal mastermind made it, because if they did, they wouldn't be on the show. But
Yeah.
forget about it. The point is, you're right. There's so much you can do in this world doing smart stuff. Talk about smart stuff, Katie Shannon. Talk about these tags and how, like, I want to hear about the Pets Act and some of the, the access to funding and things like that that we see some of the municipalities. I do have a little bit of intel from, talking to you all for about a year and a half about some of this stuff. So let's share some of that if you could.
So just to kind of add a few other features to the tags, there is a field on there that you can put your microchip number in there. And so if your pet has an existing microchip, you can actually link their current microchip to their GPC Smart profile. It actually gives people another way to pull up your pet's profile, and to also confirm if they were to lose their tag and they have a microchip number, you can still go into our system through our Lost Pets page and look up profiles via that microchip. The nice thing about it is it actually speeds up the process, because typically when you have a microchip, you scan it at a shelter, all you get is a 15-digit number. You don't know what company it belongs to. You have to know where to go to search the database to figure out what company it belongs to,
So
and then call that company to retrieve the information.
Well, let me ask you. So, a typical scenario, if a dog or cat, for that matter, gets picked up and is lost, and there's no identification, and they have a chip, they
Yeah.
scan the chip at the shelter or wherever they end up. Now the shelter has to figure out what company to even call. All they have is a number. That doesn't even sound very efficient to begin with. That's the only data that's on that chip.
Yeah, it's people think microchips are great, and they are the gold standard for pet identification, but they do have some drawbacks, and that's one of them is that any chip that starts with 900, that's just a generic chip number. It's not a dedicated ICAR number for a specific company. Our chips start with 944, which is a dedicated ICAR number, so we're the only company that's using those.
Okay.
We don't share it with other companies, where 900 chips can be shared by over 100 companies worldwide. And so you may not easily be able to trace that chip if they're not participating in a lookup tool like the AHA microchip lookup tool, which we are part of. It can be really, really hard to trace those 900 chips. And especially with me being in Canada, we deal a lot with dogs being pulled from high kill shelters in the States being brought to Canada. And if they have those 900 chips, we're not always able to pull them up in databases to figure out what company they belong to. And so they'll return like 15 matches. And so you're expecting the person finding that dog to call 15 different companies and say, hi, is this microchip in your database?
Right.
And,
They're so bogged down with the regular duties and all the stuff. And a lot, I think of one shelter in particular that we talk about often on this show, but just, that they just don't have maybe enough manpower or
No, I have plenty of manpower.
that place does. Some others don't.
Oh, sorry.
Those of you, if you know, you know,
Rhymes with Schmemstead.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And not to mention that to have to go through all of that while your pet is missing, I mean, that's just adding to the stress level. But I have a couple of quick questions for you before we move on to the Pets Act, which I definitely want to hear about. But so, like, who is your ideal customer? Are you looking to go with wholesale? Are you looking for people to, as individual consumers, go to your website? And also, how much do these cost?
They retail for $19.99. And we have 3 levels of users. So on our top tier, which we haven't really talked about yet, what I'd really like to get into is we're working with governments and emergency management situations. So this is where we're going to get into the pet act. So I'm going to come back to that in just a second. In our middle layer, we're working with pet businesses. So these could be daycare, these could be boarding facilities, veterinarians, animal organizations, animal control, shelters, and then everything trickles down to the individual pet. And I should mention that dogs and cats are the classic use case for pet identification, but we've also had a lot of interest from the horse community for braiding these into horses' manes because it's a very safe way to turn horses out with identification. Because things like brands that we mentioned earlier can be very difficult to trace and look up, where you can actually just take this tag, braid it into your horse's mane. It's visible identification. People will be like, hey, that horse has something on it. And they can scan it and look it up. So our profiles, we have a dedicated dog profile in our app, and we have a dedicated cat profile. So it'll pull up cat and dog specific breeds and colors. And then we have an other pet profile, which you could put this on your iguana, your potbelly pig, whatever you got.
We lost.
One last question before I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Elliot. We just in memory of Elliot, right? Your Komodo dragon.
Bearded dragon.
We'll always remember your Komodo dragon, Elliot.
Thank you. So I guess this is just a logistics question, right? The tag. Okay, so I have 3 pets. I have a dog and 2 cats currently. Do I know I have 3 tags, one for each pet. Do I have one account?
Yeah, so you set up your account with your information, and then you can add multiple pets. There's no limit on how many pets you can have, which is great because I have too many.
No, you're not getting away with that on this show. No. How many pets? How many?
I have 7 dogs full time. I have 2 cats, and I have 1 horse. I'm down to 1 horse this year. I lost 2 of my guys.
7 plus 2 plus 1 is 10.
Yeah. I live in the country though. I had to buy a bigger place to accommodate everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, well then you got to move. Oh, okay. All right.
So,
awesome.
Yeah. So let's go back to Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina was really a catalyst for pet identification and getting Congress involved with pets. And so Hurricane Katrina was really the first documented case where people were denied evacuation because they had dogs or they had cats. And so rescue crews showed up and they said, we're here to evacuate you. And they said, I'm not leaving if I can't take my dog. And they're like, well, you can't take your dog. And so people stayed behind. And all these people who stayed behind because they weren't allowed to evacuate with their pets actually created a greater human crisis than if they were just allowed to take the dog with them when they were asked to evacuate.
I wouldn't leave. I'd be one of those people. I'm not leaving without my pets.
Same. I can't blame them at all. And so it actually created a bigger problem than if people had just been allowed to evacuate with their pets. So after that, Congress got together, and in 2006 they created the Pets Act. And really, it's a very short little document, but really what it says is that the government needs to put policies in place for emergency management and disaster response that includes pets into that evacuation plan, and that people cannot be denied evacuation because they have a pet. And so the pets get to go with them, and then the shelters have to be able to accommodate pets. Not every shelter will accommodate pets, but there has to be shelters that can accommodate people with their pets. And so this was very revolutionary. And so now pets need to be part of emergency management and disaster response plans. And so it's not an area that is always very well done, or even that some of the governments know about. We've met with many of them and they're kind of like, oh, I didn't know this was actually a requirement. And that's one of the requirements for them to get FEMA funding, is that they have to have these policies in place. And so this product really is, we call it Blue Sky Days. And so on a day like today, my dogs are sleeping on the couch and in their dog bed and everybody's happy, everybody's fine, but they have tags on in case they were to bolt out the door and go missing. But, I also live in an area where we could be affected by fires or floods, depending on what the weather's doing that day. And, a lot of the states deals with hurricanes and tornadoes and earthquakes and wildfires.
And so every state deals with the 4th of July, which is the #1 day here, in the States, that pets go missing.
Yeah. So this is a product that you want to put on your pet for blue sky days where everything's good. And that's just in case something were to happen. We know pets are also involved in, traffic accidents. Lots of people travel with their dogs. And we know that pets travel. And so one of the nice things about having one of these tags on your pet is if you're traveling and you're staying at a hotel, for example, maybe you don't have your cell phone with you, you can temporarily update your contact information on your profile. Or if your dog gets out and he's literally a half mile down the road running away and you're like, I just moved and I haven't switched my phone number yet, you can log on to your app and change your phone number without having to replace the contact information on the tag. And that's why metal engraved tags are so outdated.
Yeah.
So we do work with governments to help them have a way to include pets into their emergency management and disaster response. So this product can do both of those things. It does often lead us to working with animal groups and charities. Rescue organizations are often the ones who are called in if there is some kind of large scale disaster because they have the resources and the know-how to handle animals. So I worked in 2013. Siksika was an area just outside of Calgary that was devastated by the flood. There was literally houses floating down the river. And we were out there boating house to house, evacuating animals. We were even finding people while we were doing it. And so we set up at the community center because we have lots of kennels and crates and dog food, and we have people that are able to handle animals. And so we were evacuating animals that we found literally tied on chains, swimming in circles in the yard and rescuing them. And
God, that makes me so mad. I've seen those pictures. Nothing gets me more than those when you don't even give the animal a fighting chance.
Well, and sometimes, despite people's best intentions, there just isn't time. And so instead of being proactive, we have to be reactive. And so this is a way that we can catalog and track those animals from the time that they're picked up during recovery while they move to a center where they are being housed and taken care of until the owners are able to reclaim them and get them back. And we do have a link on our GPC Smart site for our lost pet site. And so when you mark your pet as lost in the app, it's going to do two things. It's going to take your profile and change it from private to public. It's going to generate you a lost pet poster that's saved on your phone. You can text it or email it. You can post it to your social media saying, I have a little dog named Nacho. So I can have Nacho's lost pet poster. I can fan it out to my whole network, and his little profile is going to show up on our lost pet page so I can get the community involved with trying to find him. And so that lost pet page is really a catalog for animals that go missing every day. But also if there were a fire, for example, and there's pets that are being recovered, we can post those pets on that lost pet page and give the owners a place to look for their animals. And what happened during Katrina is that so many pets were picked up and there wasn't enough resources locally to be able to house and care for those animals. And so they were shipped across the country. Literally, pets were shipped to New York. They were shipped to California. And people didn't know that they needed to be looking for their dog in California, when they're in New Orleans. And so
why would you know that? Like, what you're going through the devastation and everything that went on. And I remember people were like on the top of their roof of their house to be rescued and things like that. I mean, that was chaos. And what a silly way to do things is take these animals and just ship them to the other side of the country. Like,
and so that's why we're actually working with emergency management to be able to create a way to catalog and track those animals from the time they're picked up during recovery and as they move through that care network until we can get them back to their owners. And so having our website as that place you can go looking for your animals instead of having all these different rescues and different organizations all across the country where you have to go to each individual one, we're kind of the one-stop place to go look for your pet.
So the database where if I was in that situation where I lost one of my pets, I can go to one source of truth that's going to tell me where the animal is.
Yes. And so when we look at our app, when you have the ability to store your vaccine records on there, it's great for every day. Like I said, if you're checking in at doggy boarding or daycare or the groomers and you need to show proof of vaccines, but a lot of those shelters also want proof of vaccines before they accept your animal. And so you have it on your phone. If you're evacuating your house, there's a good chance you're going to have your phone with you, but you're not going to have time to go back in your house and dig through the filing cabinet looking for the paper copies of those records. And so the information is stored on your phone and it's mobile and it's always accessible to you. So it's great for every day, but also emergency.
That you need that also for the doggy bars, the dog friendly bars that have like a play area for the dogs.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of questions here. Going back to, so you're saying you're working with government. What level do you typically approach? Is it the state level? Is it county level? Is it town?
We've done a lot of work with county, but we also have some contacts that are on a state level. Ideally, this is something that um, our goal is to blanket pet identification as a nationwide system. But nationwide in itself is great, but it's not enough because we know pets travel from different countries, and Canada being the U.S. neighbor, pets travel back and forth every day. And so this really needs to be a globalized system that everybody can utilize and connect to. So that's really ultimately our goal, is to make this a nationwide product and then take it beyond those borders and make it something that when pets travel, their information can travel to.
You mentioned Pets Act here in the States,
Mhm.
where you are in Canada. Is this incorporated? Are you all further ahead of us or behind us as far as this stuff goes?
Well, typically Canada's always lagging behind everybody else. With microchipping, the UK has had mandatory microchipping for pets for several years. In June of last year, the UK made it mandatory for cats to be microchipped. So any dog or cat over 8 weeks of age has to have a mandatory microchip. We are starting to see the trickle down effect where specific counties in the States I'm already aware of have mandatory microchipping laws. And I really believe that, in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be very widespread. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a lot of statewide and then even nationwide for mandatory microchipping. There's a lot of regionalized laws that say that pets have to have pet identification. We're very familiar with pet licensing. That's a perfect example. These tags are also something that could replace current metal engraved license tags, and they can just upgrade them to one of these. And then they have the benefit of having that much more information with them. But I do believe that pet identification is going to spread and become mandatory.
I'm not familiar, Val and Katie. Sorry, Val, I think you were going to say something too, but I'm not familiar with the pet licensing thing. So, what can we speak to that? One of you two?
Like most cities have a pet license, and so they have a bylaw that says that the pet has to have a license, and they pay an annual licensing fee. Some places offer a lifetime license where you pay $20 or $30, and your pet has to. They give you a little tag, and your pet has to have their license on them if they're out in public.
Yeah. Okay.
That drives me crazy, right? Because Tommy, I can almost guarantee you that there's a local ordinance within your township that requires this. Most people don't know. They have no idea. And I really feel it's a lack of communication. I mean, I lived where I lived for several years before I even found out that my township had a shelter. I didn't even know about it. I had no idea. Anyway, I wanted to ask you, what was my question? Oh, here's a good question. So I own my own pet food store,
Mhm.
and we're part of a franchise. There's 5, I believe, in New York, and now 1 opening in Florida. My question to you is, right, so like if we wanted to carry your products, what is like a minimum order? Do you offer ISOs? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, that's something I can send you information after for that. It's we kind of work on a case by case basis depending on what your needs are and volume
We're a
is.
small pet store. We're small.
We can accommodate you, definitely.
Okay, great. I now that I understand and appreciate this product, I would like to carry this.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's great.
I have some pull. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, listen, and folks, it's not just for Valerie's needs and purposes here. Katie, we have some reach here. We can probably make some very interesting introductions for you. So,
Yeah.
gang, if you are interested, you can reach out to Valerie and I. We'll get you connected with Katie and the whole thing. Tommy D at pal-show.com or Valerie at pal-show.com. We'll make that happen. And Katie, this is so informative. It's educational, and as we know, and I didn't know for a long time until Cheeto came into my life, that these are not our animals; they're our family members, and
Yeah.
especially for those of us who either have kids that have grown up and moved away. I don't have that, but I have kids who have not grown up or moved away. But are folks who are only pet parents and just want to, that their life revolves around their animals. I mean, you mentioned a horse, 7 dogs, and 2 cats, right? I mean, but we've been on here for 40 minutes. You might have more animals by the time you go outside and check them out. I know it's a good chance Valerie will by the end of the week. So
Always trying.
always trying, yeah. So this is really important stuff that we're talking about. Katie, anything else specifically you want to leave with folks from an educational perspective?
Yeah, I think I just can't understate how important pet identification is. If your dog or cat goes missing, they can't phone home. So you have to equip them with the tool to be able to connect them to you if they go missing. If your pet arrives in a shelter, there are so many shelters that are overcrowded across Canada and the United States that the law states you have 72 hours to reclaim your pet if they come in without identification on them. That means after 72 hours, they can legally rehome, they can sell, or they can euthanize your pet. So time is of the essence when your pet goes missing. At least if they show up and they have a microchip, even if it's not registered, but they have a microchip or they have some kind of identification, a collar itself is not good enough. Um, the laws changed to 5 to 10 days that you have to reclaim your pet. But the more information you can attach to your pet and give people ways to retrieve that information that's usable and get a hold of you, the better chance you have of somebody calling you and say, hey, I found your dog. If your dog goes missing and they have a tag on them, like 95% of people are going to do the right thing and call you if they have a tag on them.
I
If they
agree.
find
I
a
think,
dog,
yeah, most people are inherently good, right? And I think
but
most people can empathize with the thought of, oh my gosh, if my pet went missing, I'd be devastated, and they will want to do the right thing.
But if they find a dog that doesn't have a collar, a lot of people start to get that idea like, oh, this is a really nice dog. Maybe if we don't find an owner, we'll just keep them, and they may not try as hard. Or
Yeah.
they think that because they were found without a collar, the collar may have just fell off. But a lot of people think because the dog was found without a collar, well, he's not owned by somebody, nobody cares. And they may not actually know that they need to take him to a vet or a shelter and have them scanned for a chip. And most places actually have a policy that if you find a dog, you actually need to take it to the regional shelter because that's a designated place for those dogs to go. And that's where owners are supposed to go to find pets. But in this day and age, we know that people are posting them on Facebook. It might be an elderly person that owns that dog. They don't have Facebook. And so there are policies and protocols in place for finding pets, but people don't always follow them. And so
We
if
didn't
you
do
have,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
We didn't take the dog to the shelter. Well, first of all, um, I might be jaded just because of so many shelter experiences that I've witnessed. So there's a lack of trust there sometimes, but I also was fairly confident that between Nextdoor and Facebook that we might be able to
yeah,
reunite, that dog. But I have a quick idea for you. Just a
sure.
thought. Because in the States, right, the 4th of July is the biggest day that dogs and cats go missing. It might behoove you guys to claim, like, if it's not already a thing, I don't know, National Pet Identification Day, and kind of piggyback that onto the 4th of July or maybe the day before.
Yeah.
They have those national day calendar things. I don't know.
We're actually in National Pet Identification Week, ironically, right now.
Now?
It's the
Oh,
17th to the 23rd.
well, then never mind.
So
Okay.
so very fitting. And then in August there's a National Check Your Chip Day. And so that's supposed to be a reminder for people to log into their microchip account, look up their pet information and check that it's all up to date.
See, it must have been a good idea because you guys already did it. Okay.
Well, we
Check
didn't
that
do it,
off.
but
Right.
it does exist because it
It
is
exists.
important.
And
Um,
the other thing, real quick, was when you were talking about your website. I don't know if this is there or not, but if it's not there, it might be also great to include some tips about what to do if your pet goes missing.
uh,
Yeah,
there is an
especially.
FAQ section.
Perfect.
And then when you mark your pet as lost in the app, it actually sends you an email with some tips about what your next steps are, because we know people are in panic mode and they don't always know what to do.
Oh my
And
God.
so it actually shoots you an email automatically with tips about the next steps to try and recover.
I love it. I want it. I want it in my store. I'm sold.
I'm going to share the website real quick for everybody listening. So I'm going to show it. And if you're listening, if you're in listen only mode, go to gpcsmart.com. gpcsmart.com.
Yeah.
You want to share any contact info or anything, how they should reach out directly to you or go through the website or what?
There's a contact form on the website. I just want to say that GPC is Get Pet Connected. So this is Get Pet Connected Smart Pet Identification. It's a way to connect your pet to the community and then back to you if they go missing. So there is a contact form on there, or you can do info@syneroid.com as well.
What's Syneroid for us?
SYNEROID.com.
Perfect. And we will we'll share this out with everybody when we post this.
Yeah.
It's really
Katie, I just want to let you know I love this product and I love the mission but also I love you as a person already.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to also connecting you with some other hopefully key people. I don't know which municipalities and states you're already working with, but I know Tommy and I know a few people that we could possibly connect you with. And I hope you guys will consider joining our network too, because we're on a network to do great things
Look
for
at
the
you.
animals.
Look at you, Val. Well done, Valerie.
Thank you.
Well done.
Well, I'm so proud of us though. I mean,
Proud of
not
you.
to sound not humble, but I'm really, when I look back on the people that we've had on as guests, the connections that have been made, the success stories of like people's lives have been changed. You know what I mean? Like it's really special. And now with these laws that hopefully are going to be changing, this is amazing shit.
Yeah. You said a bad word.
Yeah.
You know, I'm looking on here. I'm looking on here, and I actually did a panel discussion, and I had Paul Pachter on the panel, who's the CEO of Long Island Cares, and I see you have Long Island Cares on the website here as well.
Yeah. We sent them some product, and they were in their goodie bags for their walk that they did in September.
Okay.
So we provided some loot for their walk so that everybody had a GPC Smart Tag in their bag.
And
I have a 2-year anniversary coming up at the end of next month. I love these things. We're going to do I'm tying it in with a fundraiser for our local rescue. Actually, the local rescue that was scammed a few times. Anyway, but I would love to have these in like raffle prizes and stuff too.
We actually have a fundraising program as well. I'll send you some information when we get off.
Yeah. And
This just keeps getting better.
And you all, you all have been so gracious in sending us things for our past couple of lunches and events like that, and we're grateful for that. So, shout out to Ren and Katie, certainly shout out to you, and excited to continue this relationship. And timing is everything. We tried to get you on the show and it didn't work out last month or something like that. But that was because we knew it was National Check Your Pet ID. I forgot the name of the week. We knew it was
National Pet ID Week. Yeah.
That's what I meant. Why are you correct? We knew it was that week, and but I kid, but I'm serious, and we're grateful for the relationship. And for sure, Val, good on you, Val, for talking about the Professionals and Animal Lovers Society. More information on that, reach out to us. Send me an email, tommyd@pal-show.com, and we'll get you sorted out. I'm going to leave you all with this. The greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated. Treat your animals well, treat your people well. Make it a great day. Thanks.
Amen. #Gandhi.